Hello, this is Dave Klein, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Let me give you a little bit of history on myself. I've been in the technical training, course delivery, and development area for my entire career, and I'm looking to share what I've learned through those many years on technical/product training with you. And I hope you enjoy the presentations. This one will be the third presentation on technical training, and today we're going to talk about training process. We call it the learning, design, and development six-step process. And you'll see it's very simple and easy to use. Our first slide we're going to look at is called the learning, design, development six-step process. And it's the first four steps of the process out of six. And the first thing you see is we have instructional designer performs training needs analysis. And tied to that is the output of the tab 1 of your detailed design document. And I'm going to show you tab 1 and tab 2 in a few slides. What I have learned throughout my career developing technical training/customer product training is that since your schedules are so precise, and you have to keep up with the product development cycle, and you have to have your training material ready at product launch. We created templates for our design process to assist the instructional designer in the areas that they need to find information out and to help them design and develop the training material. So you're going to see some of these aspects when we look at these slides that show both tab 1 and tab 2 of that detailed design document. So out of that first process step, which we call analysis, what you would expect as an output would be the analysis being done, and that would include the tab 1 of your detailed design document being completed. That next step is the kickoff meeting. And the kickoff meeting is where we will share with the core team, and the core team are people identified in that tab 1, and they would be your subject matter experts, stakeholders, people that are going to be involved with this training project from day 1 all the way through the end. So your kickoff meeting, you're going to invite those core team members to it, and you're going to identify job responsibilities. You're going to go through, okay, this is the project. You're going to talk about timelines, how much time is needed by this core team for their commitment. And out of that meeting, you're going to come away with an agreement on the timeline and the project itself. Now, one thing I always recommend to my team when we're going through this is to present tab 1 at the kickoff meeting. That prevents having to have a separate meeting for that tab 1 review. And it also shows and gets agreement from the core team or make any changes that the core team agrees to of tab 1 and the project. So the output of that would be agreement on that tab 1. So we go over to step 3, and this is where we're going to be completing our design, which is tab 2. Tab 2 is basically a detailed course outline, and you'll see that we have columns for suggested activities, your key SMEs. You'll have a column in there that where you're getting the source material from. So it helps you lay out everything in one preview. And we used Excel for both of these. Now, we had some people who didn't like it. I would tell you the people that liked it were usually the technical people from engineering, sales engineering, people internal. The people that had to learn how to use it were the people from marketing and sales. They're looking for more of a splashy PowerPoint or a Word document as we went through this. But everybody that got used to this document loved it after they used it a few times because everything was there in one document. You had your analysis in tab 1, and you had your detailed design, your blueprint for what you're going to deliver in tab 2. So at the end of this step 3 activity, we are going to have tab 2 fully identified. It's going to be the detailed course outline with what we're trying to do as far as activities. If we're just putting slides together for either PowerPoint or for something like Articulate, we will list those slides and what they contain in the outline. And once we finish that detailed design document tab 2, we'll have a formal review of that. And it may take several meetings for the outline to be approved. Usually it only takes about 60 minutes to go through it, answer questions, and get the approval from that core team. And the output is that approved detailed design document. The next activity is step 4, and that's where we're doing the actual course development. And this should be very familiar to many of you watching this video. Development happens with the ADDIE model. So we've taken our blueprint from that design document, and now we're creating our content. So modality has been determined already. The tools we'll be using to create the content have already been determined. And now we're going into full-blown development. And this would be PowerPoint, or in our case, we used Articulate. So it'd be Articulate Storyline or Rise. We use Camtasia for our video, and sometimes we use Camtasia along with PowerPoint to create the course. If the course was very technical, we tend to use PowerPoint and Camtasia with a voiceover to go through those detailed explanations of that technology. If it was easy material, such as a product overview, or sometimes a product portfolio overview, we would use Articulate Rise. Or if it was just talking about some microphones in the portfolio overview, then we would use Articulate Rise. So you have to determine early on what tools you're going to use for your development activity. During the development, you're going to be checking in with your subject matter experts. You're going to be asking them questions, and that would be engineering, product management, that would be marketing, and sales engineering or application engineering, or in our case, application engineering at my last job. They're the people answering the phones and giving that technical support to folks that are in the field, either installing your product or troubleshooting your product. So you definitely would want them on your development team. And also, if it's instructor-led training, any instructor that's going to be delivering the information should also be part of the core team and review status. So the output of this development process, and this can take several weeks to several months, depending on the product and the detail of the content. But the output of development is the approved course material. So you'll go through a formal review of the materials with the core team. They'll make comments, and then you'll have to take those comments and make adjustments to the course material that you presented. And then what we do is we provide them with a desktop review after that. And once the desktop review has been done and approved, we consider development done. And then we moved into the next area, and that next area is step 5. And step 5 activities, this is where if you have an instructor-led training, you are going to schedule a pilot session with that master instructor. And you're going to invite friendly students. And usually when I say that, I would recommend if you have a technical audience internal to your company that will need this training, then you invite them into this beta or pilot session, depending on what you guys call it. And you go through the training material just like you would in a class. So if there's any hands-on where they have to do labs and perform, then you would need that equipment to do that on. If there's instructor demo, you'd have to make sure you have equipment for that. But you go through that pilot session, and what I suggest is after each day, at the end of that day of instruction, you collect feedback from the students. And I would go through each topic area that was covered that day, so you can divide, so you can divvy up that feedback per topic. And what we've found in all my experience is that it just improves your course. You don't want to deliver a course to customers who are paying for it sometimes or are spending money to come to it on their own dime without going through that material. So it's really recommended you do a pilot course before you release it. Once you do the pilot course and you get the feedback, then you have to take that feedback and put it back into the course. And then you do another desktop review like we did for that development step. And once you get that desktop review back with approvals or any tweaks, you make those tweaks, and then you finally get this approved through your core team, and we release that instructor-led training course to the regions. Now, if it needs to be translated, we always made that the regional responsibility. So if they wanted it translated, then they would work with us to get that translated. A lot of times, regions did not get technical material like instructor-led training translated. However, as time evolved, we saw the need for translation. So I would expect no matter what course you create, if you're a global company, you're going to have translations done. So make sure you count for that time. If you're just delivering this to be going on a learning management system, this is where you allow peer review to take place. So you have the instructional designer load the course onto the LMS, and then one of their peers on the team or the manager will look through that course and make sure it plays okay, review the material as it's being played throughout that media, and then make any tweaks to the course that comes out of that. You need to go through this peer review. I would not suggest you let the instructional designer who developed the material to do the review on their own. And I also suggest that you have some sort of checklist that you want stuff reviewed on the LMS so that we ensure when it's released to the public, to your customers, it plays the way as it was intended so the learning can take place. So the output of this activities is course material passes quality check and it's ready for release to customers via the regions and for instructors or via the LMS. And that's when we get into the implement step. That's step 6. And in this step, this is where we have the instructional designer will finalize the DDD. And why do we have that step here? What we have found throughout course development is that you're going to make tweaks to the DDD because what you first approved, once you get into the course development, especially if it's online learning, sometimes you're tweaking the sequence of the slides and or you're fine-tuning the suggested activities that will be done by the student on the online course. So any changes made from the original approval, we ensure that it's caught in the DDD before we release the LMS. And one thing we've told every core team member throughout my projects is that when they approve that final DDD, we let them know if we make any changes due to feedback or to input, we will update that DDD and anybody can look at it throughout the project. We'll make sure that we load our raw files to a global repository, and you're going to need this. And why would it be global? Well, a lot of times in a global team, not all your instructional designers are going to be on a team in America. You're probably going to have instructional designers in different locales. So, and a lot of times engineering isn't only in North America, it might be in Europe, it might be in Asia, it might be in South America. So it's easy to have instructional designers closer to where the engineering is taking place. And a lot of companies have done that today. So you want to make sure that you have a global repository accessible by that global training team. And you want to put all the original files into folders clearly marked for that product. So this is why it's important, and we're going to talk about it when we get to the tab 1 of the DDD design document, that we have approved file naming process, course numbering process, course revision process in place. So when we're putting stuff into this global repository, it's easily found and we know where to locate it. And the globe knows where to find it. We also notify the regions that the course is done and it's ready for translations if translation is going to take place. And we provide the region with those files that they can use in their region. So if it's instructional material, that would be PowerPoint, lab guides, all that, that would go in a folder for that region to access and to use in their region. Now, one thing I have found to be very true is every region is not going to teach the course the same way as the other region. So what I have found in my global teams is if we agree that these slides have to be used in the course, if you want to add additional slides, or if you want to change the order of the slides because you feel comfortable that way, the slides still have to be used because the final exam is going to be based off of that course material that we created, not if they add any additional course material. What I have found out in the regions, you'll have instructors want to put some clarification PowerPoint slides together. They may want to show a system that this product is in that they've actually worked with themselves. So you may want to give that leeway, just assuring that they use the slides you produced, but don't limit them from customizing it a bit for their region. And that's always worked out. And that's how the Globe usually gets, how the Globe agrees to release courseware. And the output's going to be that general availability of the training course in the language of choice. Now, I said I was going to get to the DDD, so our next slide here. And we're showing tab 1 of the DDD. And it's really simple, right? This is the information you got to have. You just have to have it to do your tab 2 and to talk to people. You need a course title. What are you going to call this thing? Now, we made it simple. We had technical enablement courses, what was the technical course. Sometimes they're online, sometimes they're instructor led. We had a sales enablement course for sales. We had product overview courses. So if the product wasn't a technical product, but still needed to have a technical course, we began calling that a product overview course. And then we also had a portfolio overview. So if you had a lot of microphones that you wanted to help people select from, for music or for drum kit or for, that was my last company, Shure was an audio company. Then we had this portfolio course that talked about the portfolio microphones and what they could be used for. And we had detailed design document templates for each type of course that we agreed to. And that makes the job of your instructional designers a lot easier. Now, we're not taking away from their creativity, believe me. It works because it helps them understand what they need and what step of the process. So you're going to need a course title. This one's a technical enablement course example. You'll need a course number and version. So you have to understand how you're going to number your courses and version them before you even get started on designing the course. You're going to need a business objective. And the reason we do this is because sometimes a product doesn't require training. It's a microphone, a standalone. You're going to plug that microphone into an amplifier, and it's going to go to speakers so that you can sing into it or talk into it. We're not going to create a course for a microphone. We may create a course for a bunch of microphones, as I said, for portfolio overview, but not for a single microphone. So the business objective is very a must required thing, because you want to get from the powers to be, and that would be your marketing manager and your product management person. Why do we need this course? What is it going to serve? Then you have to create a course description. You want a basic one that can include what the course is going to be all about and what it is. What product are you supporting? Then you're going to have to do an audience analysis to get your target audience. I just put an example of here. So, who do you need? What type of population needs to attend this course? Then you do your course objectives. And this would be, okay, what's the course objective for the course? When you get into your modules and you're creating that in tab 2, you can put enabling objectives in each one of your modules or topic areas. This would be the overall course objectives for the course. Then the final thing is you better have an understanding when you start doing your analysis of how long it's going to take a student to go through the course. And for that core team, they're going to want to know and they're going to want to talk about it if it's too long. So you got to talk about the course duration. Then we get into prerequisites. So if this is like a certification course or a technical course that you have to have other training taken, so it's the third course in a series of courses in the curriculum, then you have to list those prerequisites, usually the course name and course number. Then what requisite knowledge do you want these people coming into the course? So you have to list, okay, here's the requisite knowledge. They have to be able to, or they must have to have an understanding of. You need to have a requisite knowledge part of this DDD tab 1. If you're doing certification type courses, and we had those in Shure where I worked, then you want to talk about the certification type and the level, and you want to list that there. So that would also be something you have to determine if you're just putting a team together. LMS search words. So this is going to be an online training course. You definitely want to have what are the LMS search words, keywords. So when you're entering this data into the LMS, you don't have to think about it. You got it listed already in tab 1 of your detailed design document. What are the training deliverables? It can be PowerPoint, both a participant guide, a student, and a instructor-led training guide, lab sheets, whatever. Source content. What are you expecting? You're looking for the technical publications, team documents that they're creating. A lot of times, product management and companies will create PowerPoint slide decks to explain the sales and marketing, what's coming out. And then they also sometimes you have engineering documents you get your hands on, especially those drawings, those exploded views, and any drawings, photography that was taken, 360-degree photography, all that. You want to make sure you get your source material, and you want to list it here so you can find out who can supply it to you as you go through this DDD review. Is there any video source content? So a lot of times sales and marketing will produce salesy type product videos. Sometimes product management will work with tech pubs to create videos on how-to short videos, how to use them. So again, any videos that are being created, would they be good fit to be in the course itself and save you time in creating those videos? And then, of course, you want a list of subject matter experts, your SMEs. Who are the stakeholders? Who's your SME from marketing? Who's your SME from the product team, such as the engineering person or the product management person? Who is your SME from engineering? It doesn't always have to be just design and development engineering, but you may have people like what we call Shure application engineers. These are the guys answering the phone and answering technical questions and working with people in the field that are installing or troubleshooting our product. And the same thing for sales engineers. If they're in the field and they got to do demos of this product to a customer with the salesperson, then you should actually have them as your subject matter expert to get their input as you're developing the course. And any others that you think might be able to help out, I would recommend people like your regional representatives, people that are reviewing your course or helping you get the course translated. You may have other instructional designers that have developed like material. You may want their input. Technical writers for sure. If you've got a tech pubs organization and there's tech writers writing content on your product that you're developing training for, you definitely want to invite that person as a core team member. Then we get over to tab 2, and tab 2 is where you have this detailed course outline. And the first thing you'll see is this is a spreadsheet. And what you have is you have different columns. In our columns, you got module, main screens, content, suggested activities, key subject matter experts, and then the column goes on to source material. So the reason the spreadsheet is so nice, you see the entire thing in one area, right? You see what module number you're going to be on. And this is the introduction up here. You're going to see the title of the course. Okay, you got a course library. Where is this material going to be kept at? LMS course navigations, test out options. So if you're doing certification or even just offering courses, if this course is a requirement before they can work on a product or sell a product, then you want to make sure that you have a test out option. So you don't want somebody having to go through your course with prerequisite knowledge already or requisite knowledge. You would want to ensure they could test out of the course, take that final exam. If they pass it, they get credit for the course. A course map. We talked before, this might be a course in a curriculum of courses. So you definitely would want to identify where this course fits into that curriculum. And then you want to just repeat the course objectives here. And then you get into module one. Module one is like that product system overview. As far as product or solution overview, you want to introduce the product. You want to keep it high level. And so you'll go through a product or solution introduction. So you're going to talk about the product itself. You might want to do some just basically what it is. You're going to do some define the customer or opportunity. So you want to, this is why we have the product. And what is it going to meet for the customer? What's going to do for the customer? People say, why do you need that in a technical course? Well, we have a lot of people that touch the customer that are involved with reviewing and taking these courses. So you want to make sure we have some of that. Then we get into portfolio positioning. So, okay, where does this product fit in the portfolio of products, right? Is it, if it's a bunch of microphones, or if it's a wireless type of system, is it a public safety system? So where in the portfolio of these systems does this product fit in? And then we'll give the key features of the product. We want to just talk about the key features, not every feature of the product, else you make the course in one module, right? And then you want to do any application diagrams or pictures that you have of the product, because it just makes sense. And in module one, it's a product introduction. You'll definitely want to have pictures. You want to have diagrams. And if it's a system and not just a product, you want to make sure how the piece parts connect in that system. So you want to have system diagrams available. Then we get into module two, and module two is the hardware overview. So you've gone from the product overview to the hardware overview. What's included in the hardware, right? And this is where you're actually going to have pictures and diagrams. And if it's a system type of product, or if you're connecting your product to other products in your portfolio, or to other products that aren't yours, then you got to show the connections. And then if it's a hardware software you're going to have to get into theory of operation. How does this all work together? And then module four is the hardware, right? So, okay, we'll do a hardware demo. It's usually going to be a video if it's online course, or it's going to be instructor demo if it's an instructor-led course. And if there's any how-to videos, this is the module that you include those how-to videos. And then you would get into module 5, which would be software overview, software how-to. Module 6 would probably be your wrap up. That would be your review module. And then part of 6 would also be the final exam. That's where you're going to stick the final exam questions, and it'll be on the LMS to be delivered. And the exam for the companies I work for, that exam is online. So connection is just about any point in the world. If you're doing instructor-led training, the exam can be done online at the facility they're at. We have proved this time and time again. You'll get pushback from the instructors because they would rather do the final exam at the site as they coach people through it. The final exam online is what we recommend, because then your LMS is a database that keeps track of who took the test and passed, right? It's no extra work involved for the training delivery team or for any other team. Then I talked about the project kickoff. So in the project kickoff, you have several slides, right? The first slide should be the agenda slide, introduction of all attendees, project scope, role and responsibilities, the training development process. That would be just repeating the 2 slides I showed you up front with that 6-step process, project schedule and next steps. So if we're doing introductions, who is going to be there? You have to make a decision on who's going to be at the kickoff meeting. The core team that we had at the 2 places I worked is instructional design. You had instructional designers, and they could be people on the team or people that you've hired externally, but they would be the instructional designer responsible for the project. And they're the ones going to be leading the meeting. You'll have engineering and product management representatives. So that could be anybody from engineering. It could be a development engineer, could be a field engineer, and your product management would be your product manager, the person running the project or managing the product development. If you have project managers, this would be the project manager of the entire project. So not just training delivery or development of the training material, but for all of the product going from A to Z. You want your marketing representative, and sometimes that can be more than one. Regional representatives is going to be more than one. How many regions do you have? Then you would have that training council membership. And again, if you haven't looked at that video, look at the how to set up a training organization. We talk about a global training council. You would have sales engineering, application engineering, regional representatives might be from the training council too. Anybody that's there that you think is needed to be part of that. And then any instructors delivering the instructor-led training. Project information. So the next 2 slides, this is where I recommend you just show tab 1 of that detailed design document, because it's asking for everything on these 2 slides. It's actually in tab 1. So I would just recommend that you do it, because you got project information, project scope, and then it also includes roles and responsibilities. So you'll have people that have been identified in tab 1 who is members of the core team. So when you go over roles and responsibilities slide here, it's going to make sense to them, right? So if they've been identified in tab 1, you can just show tab 1 in this meeting, and then you can go through roles and responsibilities, but it won't be a surprise to them because they saw their name already in tab 1. This one is called formal review slide, and this is where we get into the nitty-gritty of how long it takes to develop training material. I mentioned in one of my other videos, people think a lot of times that you're just developing PowerPoint. What's taking you so long? So we want to give people an idea, if they're new to the team, haven't been part of a course review before, how long it takes us to develop training materials. So this is what we used as timing guidelines on my team. They may be different from your team, but you want to make sure that they have these timing guidelines so they understand that, oh, it's going to take you this amount of time. And when I go to timing guidelines, you got new online course that's 240 hours or 6 weeks of time. Well, those 6 weeks of time might be spread over 3 months, because normally, and I don't know if this is going to be the same in your company, our instructional designers had 2 or 3 courses that they were working on at one time, because your subject matter experts and the information you're trying to get isn't always available as you're working on one course. So you move to another course. So every one of the instructional designers had 2 or 3 projects to work on at one time, because of getting that information, lining up review times, all that. And this is the slide that's very important, because it tells all your core team members how long a meeting takes and how long it will take them for the formal review. What do I mean by that? Well, a meeting is one thing, right? But you don't have enough time in a meeting to go over every aspect of a document. So you give them an hour to review the material. So a DDD itself, let's say they're reviewing tab 1 of the DDD, we give them an hour to review it. but it will take less than an hour. When they come to the meeting, we schedule an hour for the tab 1. We do that to make sure we have enough time. You're going to have people asking questions. You'll probably be asking questions of the people at the meeting. So we always call the DDD tab 1 formal review at 1 hour. Your DDD formal review meeting, that's the entire DDD now, tab 2, that's going to be 1 hour. Now, for them to review the DDD form, tab 2, that's going to take them about another, an hour to review that. So you got an hour for the actual meeting and an hour for them before the meeting to review. And then we also understand, okay, primary development phase, it's going to take about 6 hours of time during your development phase for your subject matter experts. You're going to go to people and ask them questions and get clarification. You may have to, let's say you have module 1 down and you got a couple questions on module 1. So you may select a couple core team members that are very interested in that part to get their input. And while they're looking at it, you're working on the other modules. So the 6 hours there is for anybody on the core team. You're telling them you got 6 hours probably where I'm going to reach out. I'm going to pick your brain. I'm going to meet with you. But that's what the 6 hours are for. Final course materials for review, depending on how long the course is and what material we're asking them to review, if they're videos, if they're online content, if there's quizzes and testing that they're going to be reviewing. You want to give them 4 hours to review that material. 4 hours. Now think about that. Everybody's busy. So you can't give the material out one day and expect them to review it the next day and have that meeting the day after you sent them material. They're busy people. Having them find 4 hours out of a day is going to be difficult. So what we usually did is we did not schedule a review until between 3 and 5 days out, depending on how much material we wanted them to review. If it was a big course and they're reviewing all the modules at once, we set it at 5 days. If it was a smaller course and not as much content, and then we would schedule it 3 days. So the course review always happened 3 to 5 days after the invite was sent out. That formal review meeting you schedule for 90 minutes because it's reviewing every module. And they're going to be providing you feedback. And that's the other thing that's important. Before you do any of your reviews, we created feedback sheets. And feedback sheets are nothing more than a spreadsheet. And if you're and allowed you to, if it was a video that they're watching, so let's say you're using Camtasia to create some online training, you would tell them, okay, mark down what module it was in and what time on the video where the comment is. And that became very easy to track then because they would watch the video. Now we were using Articulate 360, and that has a review manager in there. So you could load your videos and they can make comments right into Articulate. That was great. If you don't have Articulate, then the spreadsheet will work fine. And then you would, after you had that final formal review meeting, you're going to have input. You're going to have feedback, things that you have to fix. So you want to give them another 5 days because you're going to fix everything. You got to figure out how long that's going to take you, and then you send it out for desktop review. A lot of people just trust you that you did it. They just trust that you finished it. So then they're going to go on and say, okay, I bless it, and they're going to approve it. And once the desktop review is done, then you're going to announce the course to all regions, matching that 6-step process. If you have any questions whatsoever on the topic and things that we covered today in this video, you can always reach out to me via my YouTube channel. And please subscribe to my YouTube channel. That'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you for watching.